Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Well, Lloydminster native Braden Holtby got sent back down, but he saw some success in the NHL.
He certainly did. Another Lloydminster product, making everybody in the border city proud. And we'll have an update. Aaron Strack got a chance to speak to him actually today, so we'll have an update on where he is and how he's doing.
We look forward to that coming up in sports. Gerard, we're having a little bit of an argument about how cold it was outside because I walked 2 blocks and I felt like it was freezing.
We were outside playing football yesterday, and then today I hear the snowblower wake me up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we got some snow today. Unfortunately, it's going to be like that old man winter wanting to keep his foot in the town a little bit longer.
No.
But I was out in it for over an hour yesterday, just walking and stuff.
It was,
I mean,
yesterday was a
nice.
completely different day from today.
Yes. Yeah, totally different, and the wind wasn't that strong as it is today. It's been gusting a lot today, and there's some more wind gusts for us later on. Let's see what we're dealing with right about now. We got to that -3 actually at 10 o'clock today. That's to tell you how it's been, and it's held steady at that. With the exception of those wind chills which are in the double digits, you're seeing it's -11, and the wind has been gusting anywhere. Right now it's up to about 35 kilometers an hour, but it's really been gusting for the better part of the day. So if you've been feeling a little on the chilly side and wondering what became of spring, I tell you what, keep the spring in your thoughts, keep the spring in your step. Because, yeah, spring is coming, man. -3, come on, people. -1 over in the Lakeland region, and the wind is blowing the snow there a little bit. In the Battlefoods, they've had their share of it as well. It's a bit overcast. And yes, Jenna, there is some more of it to come later on, but we'll talk about that in due course. Meantime, it's back to you.
RCMP and EMS were on the scene of a 2-vehicle collision in St. Paul this afternoon. Reports say that a van collided with a truck at the intersection of 44th Street and 53rd Avenue. It is also believed that the jaws of life had to be used on one of the 2 vehicles involved in the crash. We will have more details on this story tomorrow night on UCAP News. Students at Lloydminster Comprehensive High School are getting involved with a relief effort for Japan. As Kathy Lee explains, they're planning a fundraiser in hopes of raising awareness in their school so others follow suit.
After seeing the images of a devastated Japan on TV, the first thing through Angel Laliberti's mind was,
what if this would happen to us? I just felt very thankful that my family was safe and my family was alive and stuff like that, and they weren't missing.
Students at Lloyd Comp were on spring break when the earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, but Laliberti and classmate Haley Dayton jumped on the chance to help.
It's really devastating to see just how much damage and destruction there is, and now with the whole nuclear crisis, it's just terrifying to see that this is a place on our planet and we all really need to get out there and help.
Together, they rounded up classmates and brainstormed ideas for fundraisers such as busking and
sell little paper squares to make paper cranes for the Japanese and stuff like that.
It's an act of kindness one teacher isn't surprised in his students.
The media is so much out there that when it comes to something like this, they can feel it, they can see, imagine them in that same situation and what would they want. So the whole what would you do for somebody else if you were in that situation comes alive for them.
Spearheading the fundraising campaign not only seemed natural to Dayton, but she felt was a responsibility.
We're the young group, and in a few years we're going to be the generation who's in charge and who's doing all these things and who's going to be the top generation. And it will be our responsibility, so why not take responsibility for it now?
And while they don't have a monetary goal in mind yet, their hope is to get everyone involved.
We might not necessarily directly get all the money, but even if we can encourage people to text the Red Cross Fund or anything like that, any donations going out there that we know we helped with, that's awesome for us.
The students hope to finish the planning stage and bring their ideas to life in the next couple of weeks. April 4th is the anticipated start date of their fundraising campaign, where they will kick off with the bake sale. Kathy Lee, UCAP News.
Recent stats show that crimes such as identity theft, credit, and debit card fraud are all on the rise. As Shauna Roshak explains, fraudsters are everywhere. They're collecting personal information from a variety of sources to then use for their own personal gain.
Credit card and debit card fraud is a lucrative business for criminals. It can start with something as simple as a phone call, someone disguising themselves as a legitimate person. These criminals are listening to your every word, waiting to make their next move to get more information from an unsuspecting victim.
Giving it to somebody who's not really legitimate, or they obtain your credit card from other places, and then later on they'll phone you because they'll have your information, and what they'll do is they will ask for your security number.
Corporal Taves says in most cases, the criminals already have your name and card number. All they need is the last piece of information.
What they're looking for is your 4-digit code that's found by the signature block, because that's specific to each card, as is the number, but that one will be harder to get. So they're phoning, that's exactly what they're looking for.
The convenience of online shopping is popular with many. Corporal Taves also says providing credit card information on unsecure websites is a very easy and accessible way for a crime to occur.
The card doesn't have to be present, it's just as easy as typing in the numbers. And so when you're typing in the numbers, all you need is the security code.
Being vigilant in protecting yourself will help stop fraudsters against criminal activity.
Every couple of months, go into your financial institution and change your PIN number, because that way, if they do happen to capture your information, you are protecting yourself.
There's no clear description of a victim. These criminals target everyone, striking at any time.
Anybody who uses the internet, telephone on insecure sites where they can obtain the credit card number.
Corporal Taves says if you suspect any suspicious activity, to contact your financial institution or the RCMP to investigate. She also adds, if this is happening to you, it's most likely happening to someone else. Shauna Roshik, Newcap News.
In the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it's so easy to forget that none of us would even be here in the Lloydminster area if it hadn't been for a group of people over a century ago who were willing to brave the bitter elements in order to build a new life for their families. Tegan Wingfield goes back in time and files this report.
Free land. That was the promise which brought people to Canada by the thousands, and Isaac Barr wanted to provide it. But as Emily Zeben from the Lloydminster Archives explains, the land wasn't exactly for free.
The stipulations were that you had to be male, over 18. They had to also break the 80 acres of that quarter section that they were going to get, and then at the end of the 3 years they would get title for the land.
In the early 1900s, England suffered from unemployment, and Reverend Lloyd promoted emigration to Canada. Lloyd and Barr joined forces to bring over a group of people who wanted to begin a new life. Barr had planned for 500 colonists, but ended up with over 2,000 people, and this caused problems along the way.
They were in a single car, several families, one stove, no diner cars. It was just a very crude way to travel.
A Barr colonist, Alice Rendell, writes home and describes the travel conditions as horrendous. She says, "No sleeping accommodation, and as to the lavatory arrangements, they were simply a disgrace to civilization. Many a time we had felt famished with hunger, to say nothing of being starved with the cold." But despite difficulties, another colonist, William Hutchinson, managed to focus on the positive in his letters to his wife. He writes, "There are homesteads as far as the eye can see, and grain elevators. It is indeed a fine country and fulfills our expectations." From Saskatoon, the colonists traveled by wagons. Zeben says the travelers suffered from loss of luggage, freezing temperatures, scarlet fever, and by the time they had reached Battleford, Isaac Barr was deposed as he had been blamed for many of the hardships. Join me tomorrow as I continue following the lives of those people who braved unthinkable conditions, following their dreams to farm their own land, and ended up settling in Lloydminster area. Tegan Wingfield, Newcap News.
Well, Chris Campbell and I had the chance to test our ice fishing skills this weekend in Cold Lake. He will have that fish story coming up after the break.